Wow, it is a Saturday in the year 2026. Are you ready for this? Let's make it a great year ahead. And to do that, I've got some ideas for you today. You know what? I believe you can become more than you currently are, and you don't have to apologize for wanting that. In fact, I can change is today's theme, growth mindset. Welcome to Human Being with Dr. Susan. My name is Susan Hendrick, and I am here to spend the next hour with you thinking about a growth mindset. We're streaming coast to coast and around the world here on Sandcastle Radio, America's hottest online variety and music station. And today we're talking about something that looks simple, sounds cliche, but is actually one of the most powerful engines of human change we've ever discovered. Growth mindset. Katheri's ready to grow. Let's grow. So you can title this however you want: becoming, possibility, iteration, learning, agency, resilience. But underneath it all is this radical idea that you can become more than you currently are without apology. So let's start by stripping away the bumper sticker version of growth mindset. And here's the research definition in one line. A growth mindset is the belief that abilities can be developed through effort, strategies, and feedback. Abilities can be developed. I can change. Not anyone can be anything. Not everyone's gifted, but I can change. Now, my friend, a colleague from my old company, Ty Sparks, has a whole podcast on growth mindset of a champion. And he's inspired me to do something different today. So when we think about the growth mindset, I want you to think about the opposite first, a fixed mindset, which whispers, you are what you are. Don't risk embarrassment. Protect the illusion. A fixed mindset turns your life into a performance. A growth mindset turns your life into practice. One is about proving, one is about becoming. Which one would you choose? Let's do this. I'm very excited about today's topic.
Human being, fall and go on your path inside, human being, face the sun, take your chances, flow as one.
Take your chances, flow as one. Growth versus fixed mindset. Let's make this happen. Before we go any further, let's put the two mindsets on the table so you can find yourself in them, not with judgment, but with data. First, fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says abilities are innate. You're either born with them or you're not. Talent is destiny. Effort is evidence of inadequacy. Feedback is a threat. Mistakes are shameful. Success is validation. Failure is humiliation. Identity must be protected. Comparison is a scoreboard. The goal is to look good. Growth mindset says abilities can develop. Talent is a starting point. Effort is the engine of mastery. Feedback is fuel. Mistakes are information, and success is evidence of learning. Failure is simply iteration. One step closer to my best self. My identity is evolving. Comparison is irrelevant to learning. The goal is to get better, and I have control over that. Now, here's the part that matters as adults. We don't have a single mindset. We have patches. Check this out. Patches mindset. You might be growth mindset about cooking or parenting or leadership, and fixed mindset about love or money or your writing or your body or your intelligence. Patches. The question isn't, do you have a growth mindset? The question is, where do you have a growth mindset and where are you still protecting the illusion? That's where the gold is. Fixed mindset is obsessed with identity. Growth mindset is obsessed with capacity. Fixed mindset asks, what does this say about me? Growth mindset asks, what can I learn from this? One burns energy on image. The other invests energy in development. Two truths that are rarely said aloud. First, the fixed mindset often hides behind competence. High achievers and perfectionists often look growthy on the outside, but internally they're performing, not experimenting. Whereas a growth mindset is humiliating before it's liberating. Norman Schwarzkopf once said, growth is not the result of spontaneous combustion. You must first set yourself on fire. It's humiliating before it's liberating. Growth mindset learning requires exposure, feedback, embarrassment, and iteration. And most adults avoid that. Kids tolerate it better. If you have a fixed mindset voice, you might say to yourself, if at first you don't succeed, you are clearly not meant for this and you should never attempt it again. With a growth mindset, try again. So I want to start today with a 5-question quiz for you that differentiates whether you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset using real-world patterns. You ready for this? You're going to answer A or B to these 5 questions, and it'll help you figure out if you're in a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Remember, it's patches. You might have a growth mindset about one topic, but not another. So let's go in and find out. 5 questions. First one on effort. When something is hard for me, I tend to think, A, with practice, I could get better at this. Or B, I'm probably just not wired for this. Are you A or B? Question number 2 on growth mindset, on failure. When I make a mistake, I tend to A, get curious. What can I learn from that? Or B, get embarrassed. I shouldn't have done that. A or B? Question number 3, feedback. When someone gives me constructive feedback, A, I'm interested even if it stings. B, I feel judged even if they're right. 4th question on growth mindset regarding talent. When I see someone who's really good at something, I A, think about how long they must have practiced, or B, I assume they were born with that ability. And the last question on growth mindset, A or B, identity. When I'm not good at something yet, A, I think of it as a skill gap, or B, I think of it as a character flaw. If you answered mostly A to those 5 questions about growth mindset, you're in a growth mindset. You see abilities as developable. That's a word. Effort as an engine and feedback as fuel. You're built for learning, for iteration and experimentation. This mindset predicts resilience, adaptability, leadership, creativity, and long-term well-being. If your answers were mostly B to those 5 questions, you might be in a fixed mindset, and it's okay. It's Saturday morning, and we're here to work on it. But if you have that fixed mindset, you might see abilities as static, born with. You might see feedback as threatening, and mistakes as identity statements about who you are. This doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you've been busy protecting your image instead of building your capacity. Ooh, think about that. The good news, a fixed mindset is not fixed. Let's do something about it. Now, if you're mixed or split with those 5 questions, like most of us, you're patchy. Growth mindset in some domains and a fixed mindset in others. There's common split patterns, like I'm in a growth mindset about work, but I'm in a fixed mindset about my relationship because my spouse is squarely on my nerves and I don't think anything's ever going to change. Or you might be in a growth mindset about parenting, but a fixed mindset about aging. Or you might be in a growth mindset about fitness, but a fixed mindset about intelligence. Having patches of growth mindset gives you clues on how you can expand that growth mindset to other areas of your life, other patches where you're stuck in a fixed mindset. Patchiness is normal and extremely workable. You know, one of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, she talks about the heartbreak of not becoming. She says, this time of year, the new year energy is thick. People reorganize closets, calendars, marriages, and identities. Some of that is useful. Some of that is procrastination. So Anne Lamott gives us this wake-up call when she writes, what if you wake up someday at 65 or 75 and you never got your memoir or novel written? Or you were so strung out on perfectionism and people-pleasing that you forgot to have a big, juicy, creative life. It's going to break your heart. Don't let this happen. Anne Lamott. Growth mindset is not hustle culture. It's not the self-optimization Olympics. It's permission to pursue your unlived life. And Maya Angelou adds a line that tattoos itself onto this day for me. She says, this is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. You don't need a New Year's resolution for that. You just need willingness. Are you willing? Growth mindset. Now, on the science of becoming, if you're a skeptic, excellent. This part is for you. Here's what the neuroscience and psychology fields say. 1, the brain changes itself. Neuroplasticity, which means rewiring through attention and effort. Synapses trigger, they strengthen, they stabilize, and then they automate. Effort literally builds circuitry in your brain. The brain changes itself. Number 2, errors are information, not character flaws. Jason Mosier did an EEG study that showed that people with a growth mindset generate higher PE signals after mistakes, meaning they stay curious instead of shutting down. Mistake, attention, adjustment, learning. Rinse and repeat. That loop, mistake, attention, adjustment, learning. That loop is how we humans get better at anything. And then lastly, number 3, a growth mindset predicts resilience and persistence. David Yeager's research found meaningful effects on perseverance, coping, performance under stress, problem solving, and willingness to try again if you have a growth mindset. It's not magic, it's mechanism. A growth mindset is the secret sauce behind grit, resilience, experimentation, iteration, and failing forward without dying inside. I lost count of how many times I have failed, big ones too, in my life. But I use those as stepping stones up and onward. Sometimes it takes me a minute to pick myself up and dust myself off. But every failure is an opportunity to learn. And here's the longevity kicker. People who believe their behaviors can still change as they age live 7.5 years longer on average, largely because they maintain agency. Agency is anti-aging. Dig it. Belief that I can change and I will live a longer, healthier, and more fulfilled life. And you can turn on that gene. You can add this to your repertoire. What gets in the way? Anxiety. What if you could turn anxiety into adventure? Anxiety expert Arthur Brooks reframes anxiety as a feature, not a bug. Anxiety is your friend. What? That sounds crazy. If you use it right, anxiety can be a force multiplier. Kierkegaard called anxiety the dizziness of freedom. That feeling you get when choice collides with possibility. And Brooks translates anxiety into chemistry. Anxiety equals adrenaline plus negative frame. Excitement equals adrenaline plus positive frame. Same substance, different story. Now, growth mindset doesn't ask, how do I calm down? It asks, how can I steer the energy towards something that matters? That shift from avoidance to approach is the hinge of becoming. I am becoming. What if you started saying that today? I am becoming. Let's take a look at some famous fixed mindsets versus growth transformations. Viola Davis, from poverty to trauma, to mastery, to authorship. She's an amazing story if you learn about the incredible actor Viola Davis. Growth for her wasn't cosmetic, it was existential. Sarah Blakely, when she cut the ends off of her pantyhose and came up with the most brilliant multi-billion-dollar idea, she celebrated failure at the dinner table as a kid. Growing up, she was asked, what did you fail at this week? And that question made her dangerous in the best way, because failing equals forward if you do it right. Satya Nadella said, I'm going to rebuild Microsoft by killing the know-it-all culture and replacing that know-it-all culture with learn-it-all. Stock followed curiosity straight through the roof. Thomas Edison, one of my favorite quotes, I didn't fail. I found 10,000 ways not to. People love the quote, but they forget the drudgery that it takes. Now, Jim Carrey, another incredible actor, he grew up broke. Did you know that? He wrote a check for him to himself for $10 million, visualizing his success long before it came. Visualization plus practice plus rejection tolerance leads to career. A growth mindset rarely looks glamorous at the time. It looks more like repetition or humility, feedback, embarrassment, self-doubt, and trying again. Psychology is biology. Now, there's a debate in the world of psychology. What contributes more to well-being, psychological factors or physical ones? What do you think the answer is? What contributes more to well-being? Is it psychological factors or physical ones? Arthur Brooks says the answer is yes, because psychology is biology. We experience well-being through the limbic system, one of the brain's oldest alert systems, built to answer two evolutionary questions. Is this a threat? Is this an opportunity? Negative emotions aren't moral failures, they're feedback signals. Anxiety means pay attention. Discomfort means something matters. Anger means a boundary got blown through. Embarrassment means my identity is on the line. A growth mindset doesn't eliminate negative emotion, it manages it, it uses it, it derives meaning from it. And once you stop identifying with the feeling and start interpreting it as data, you get agency back. My Aunt Judy has said to me 1,000 times, data is power. My body giving me anxiety or clenched jaw anger or fearful frustration, those are clues and cues to help you get agency back. And agency is where growth lives. So are you ready to grow? I am, and I'm going to join you. So the personal fixed mindset to exhaustion arc. This is not a fun one. If the growth mindset thesis is that meaning leads to choice, leads to agency, leads to authorship, what does fixed mindset do to you? Here's an attribution reality check. What if you said, instead of this is happening to me when something frustrating occurs or upsetting, disappointing, instead of this is happening to me, what if you rephrased that to this is happening for me? That sounds really woo-woo. This is happening for me, this car accident I just got in, or this failed test, or this broken relationship, or this frustrating situation. This is happening for me. But if you are brave, you can dive into this situation and find the nugget of truth about yourself that can set you free. Tony Robbins was the first person to popularize this saying of this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. He said that in the early 1990s. But Byron Katie also said, life is happening for you. Eckhart Tolle has similar framing on acceptance. Tara Brach on radical acceptance. In Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius would nod and say, yes, this is happening for me. The earliest widely documented modern usage of the term, this is happening for me, does come, though, from Tony Robbins, where he explicitly teaches the linguistic reframe as a cognitive intervention. This is happening for me. What can I do with this? Paul Coelho, in one of my favorite books, The Alchemist, gives us a mythic version of this concept. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. How lovely. People misunderstand that line as magical thinking, but it's actually mechanical thinking disguised as myth. When you decide you want something, your perception changes. Your selective attention sharpens. Your pattern recognition wakes up. Your behavior organizes and your courage becomes directional. Have you ever seen on TikTok or Instagram the kid president? That little boy is amazing. Just the name he's given himself, kid president, he's already manifesting years and years before he's even eligible to vote. But he has millions of followers because he has a growth mindset and he believes Because he believes, he creates allies, opportunities, resources, timing that were always there for all of us. But those things are invisible until we care and we claim them. The universe doesn't have to bend for this to be true. You do. Growth mindset is less manifesting and more conspiring with reality. If you want the nerdier neuroscience flavored translation, what you seek, you see. That's the reticular activating system in effect. Attention leads to salience, leads to pursuit. Coelho wrote myth, the brain wrote mechanism, and both were right. This is my favorite moment of our hour. Are you ready? The eagle and the crow. There's a modern leadership parable, often attributed to Dr. Miles Monroe, about the eagle and the crow. My husband, Tom, shared this with me, and it blew my mind. I had to Google it to make sure that it was true because it sounded so incredible. The eagle and the crow. Did you know that the crow is the only bird that dares to attack an eagle? It lands on the eagle's back and pecks at its neck. Annoying, distracting, small. The eagle never fights the crow. It doesn't waste altitude on arguments. It doesn't wrestle in the turbulence. Instead, the eagle opens its wings and ascends higher and higher and higher. As the air thins, the crow can't breathe. It lets go and it falls away, not because it was defeated, but because it was outgrown. Growth mindset isn't always about effort. Sometimes it's about elevation. Not every battle deserves your claws. Not every critic earns a response. Not every crow gets your oxygen. Let the crows squawk and rise. When you rise, the environment changes and the crows can't follow. Here's a quick interpretive overlay. The crow leads or represents insecurity, envy, reactivity, scarcity, comparison. We've all had haters because haters gonna hate. When I was thinking about doing a radio show, I was, for a few moments, terrified at the thought of, I can't see you or hear you, but you can hear me. And occasionally when I go live, you can see me. And you might think I'm a complete idiot. I got to be okay with that. I can't be a crow about insecurity, envy, reactivity, scarcity, and comparison. Because if I want to do something meaningful and help one person, I've got to be an eagle. I've got to stay focused on my purpose, mastery, altitude, direction, and ease. Those nipping, fighting crows, that's a fixed mindset. Ascending like an eagle, that's a growth mindset. Where does that apply in your life? The one-line version of this is, don't argue with crows, ascend until they can't breathe. That's great radio, and it's even better leadership psychology. Here's the part I wish someone had said to me 15 years ago. Fixed mindset doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes a fixed mindset looks like achievement. Sometimes fixed mindset looks like being competent, being reliable, being polished, being the one who holds things together, being the one who can take on just a little more. My fixed mindset wasn't I can't, it was I must. I must prove I'm enough by doing more of the same. I got myself on a hamster wheel of proving and doing and showing up and first one there and last one out. And sure, I can take it on. More effort, more excellence, more precision, more control, more cowbell. Just kidding. That fixed mindset turns effort into identity. I'm only good because of what I do. So if I stop doing, am I no more good? That fixed mindset turns effort into identity and identity into exhaustion. My turning point wasn't a breakdown, although I was close. It was a realization. What if enough isn't earned? It's assumed. What if the next version of me isn't created by doubling down on what I've already mastered, but abandoning the very strategy that got me here because I don't need it anymore? You are enough. And growth mindset has a rule. When in doubt, experiment. You don't out-achieve a fixed mindset, you outgrow it, dear eagle. I used to teach an MBA class on organizational development and leadership. And there was a segment on transformational leadership. I remember learning about this for the first time myself, and it just blew my mind. The difference between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. Do you know the difference between the two? This is what I learned. Transactional leaders focus on you helping them make the change they want. Quid pro quo. You make 15 widgets, I'll give you $15. Transactional leadership, you make the change they want. Transformational leadership is focused on helping you want to make change. Transformational leadership was first defined by historian James McGregor Burns in 1978, and he described it, transformational leadership, as leaders and followers raising each other to higher levels of motivation, inspiring change for common goals. Talk about growth mindset. A transformational leader literally transforms you, changes you. A transactional leader gets you to act in their interest. What kind of leader do you want? What kind of leader do you want to be? Back to Tony Robbins, he said, we do not change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the change itself. Well, a growth mindset allows you to decide to seek change, and that frees you from feeling stuck in pain. And it's a muscle. Once you start practicing it, it becomes more and more natural. And I'm a complete faker because I tell you this, and I sound here trying to sound like an expert. I'm supposedly a thought leader in the area of change and growth. Man, I've been stuck in the darkest places sometimes in my life. And it isn't until I get a wake-up call, whether it's from a kind soul reminding me of who I am, or falling down so far that I can't even see the baseline anymore and I have to crawl my way back up. But either way, growth mindset is about choosing a future instead of clinging to a past that no longer serves you. So how do you get yourself into this growth mindset? John Russell, who was the managing director of Harley-Davidson Europe, once said, be clear about your brand and what you're selling to customers. Harley-Davidson, what do you know about Harley-Davidson? What do they sell? Duh, Susan, they sell motorcycles. No. John Russell said, we do not sell motorcycles. Harley Davidson sells the ability for a 43-year-old accountant to dress in leather, ride through small towns, and have people fear him. Choosing an experience, not just a product. That's what bikers want, I'm told. Business management guru Tom Peters, who wrote In Search of Excellence, he named a few of the most pressing problems that corporations are facing. Among them, failing to recognize women as one of the single most important markets in the world economy. But Tom Peters said, the solution to change in corporate mindset is shifting from selling raw materials or other goods and services to providing businesses and consumers with comprehensive solutions to problems, offering customers experiences and dreams. So for you, instead of focusing on the widget you're trying to make, the relationship you're trying to repair, focus on the state of being you're trying to create. Love, comfort, freedom, wealth, whatever it is that you're trying to create, focus on that experience rather than the broken part you're trying to fix or the motorcycle you're trying to sell. Fixed mindset is so easy to get stuck in. Pema Chodron, in When Things Fall Apart, gave us an incredible metaphor of a snake. In this teaching, Pema says, when things fall apart, it goes like this. If a snake bites you, the worst thing you can do is chase the snake. You'll bleed out long before you catch it. The snake is the event. The bite is the harm. The venom is the suffering. Most of us don't try to heal the bite. We chase the snake, trying to convince it shouldn't have bitten us, that it misinterpreted the situation, that it owes us an apology, that if we just argue the right way, it will stop being a snake. Pema says one of the great truths of adulthood is this: most of our suffering comes from trying to get someone who harmed us to stop. Most of our suffering comes from trying to get someone who harmed us to stop. Not heal us, not apologize, just stop being who they are. Growth mindset has a brutal but liberation-loaded question. What if the snake never stops? Who can I become anyway? Stop chasing the snake, heal the wound, and move forward. So nostalgia has been following me lately, partly because there's some important and precious things changing in my life. I've had a lot of loss, I've had a lot of worry, and I've had a lot of shame in the last 3 months. And not knowing what the future holds, I tend to turn backwards to review those memories and moments and people that made my life meaningful. I've always been close to my family. During the past several years, more than ever, I'm aware of our mortality. I worry about my father-in-law. I watch my husband's face as he worries about his father. And given a heightened awareness of the clicking of life's clock, I'm in the throes of this retrospective reflection on my family, my friends, my colleagues, and others who have impacted me. So I come across this notion of 4 things we should be sure to say to the people important to us while we still can. The simple list pulled together loose ends that have been dangling in my heart for some time. So I thought I'd share this list with you. 4 things to say to the people who matter in your life before it's too late. They are so simple. I love you. Thank you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Those 4 statements, they come from the Hawaiian practice of ho'oponopono, a cleansing ritual of reconciliation and forgiveness. Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry to my Hawaiian speaking friends, I'm sure I just mangled that, but the cleansing ritual of reconciliation and forgiveness, asking those 4 questions in your heart. To whom do I need to say, I love you, thank you, please forgive me, I forgive you? Ho'oponopono means to put to rights, to put in order or shape, correct, revise, adjust, amend, and regulate, to rectify. It's a mental cleansing. Family conferences in which relationships are set right through prayer, discussion, confession, repentance, and mutual restitution and forgiveness. Literally, ho'o is a particle used to make an actualizing verb from the following noun. So the idea is goodness, uprightness, morality, making those things, making goodness, making uprightness, making morality, correction, or excellence, to put in right order. So it's Ira Byock who discusses those 4 things to say to the people in your life who matter in his book, The 4 Things That Matter Most, a book about living. Highly recommend the book. So this is something you can do with and for those you care about. Say those 4 statements aloud while you still can, because the joke of life is that we think we have time. I saw a meme on Instagram and it showed a left and a right. And on the left, it said, the amount of time we think we have with our loved ones. And it's got this really long, stretched out line with lots of hash marks. And on the right, the actual number of times we'll see them again. And it's far fewer strokes on that line. Only connect, as E.M. Forster said in Regarding Henry, only connect. And ask for support. Here's a tough one. I know how hard it is to ask for support because I have long prided myself on being independent, capable. I can do it. Agency is kind of my defining superpower. But actually, those who can ask for support go farther, do more, and live longer. Because even though sometimes the act of asking for help can seem daunting and overwhelming, with the power of today's technology, we can ask for, receive, and provide support with just a few taps of a keyboard or a pickup of the phone. So here's a challenge for you. Think about 3 people who have said thank you to you in your life. 3 people, maybe even recently. And write them a note, letting them know that you were happy to help, to serve, to guide, to support them. Whatever the gift is that you gave to them, let them know that you were happy to provide that kindness. And in that same note, I want you to ask a favor in return, answering this one simple question. What are 3 words you would choose to describe me? You can even say, I heard a radio episode that has this exercise about asking for feedback, and the assignment is to ask this question. And I chose you to ask because you matter to me. The question is, what are 3 words you would choose to describe me? See what kind of answers you get. See what kind of impact you are having in the world. Pay attention to how you're landing on others. Are you opening up a growth mindset for them? Or let's go back to the snake for a minute. Are you saying, excuse me, snake, I'd like to file a customer service complaint about your venom delivery system. I feel like we could collaborate more effectively if you would stop being a reptile. I'm not mad. I just think it's interesting that you bit me mid-afternoon when I was clearly in a growth arc. Snake doesn't care. We talked last week about comedian and storyteller Elise Myers, who gave the internet a gift when she said, if I'm too much, go find less. That is the growth mindset version of boundaries with flair. Fixed mindset asks, how do I shrink to fit your comfort? Growth mindset asks, what happens if I stop negotiating against myself? I'm going to give you a tool, really cool one. Sounds strange, but give it a try and let me know what happens. It's called critical ignoring. That sounds kind of nasty, doesn't it? Critical ignoring. Premise is that growth mindset is not about consuming more information. We don't need more information in this world right now. There's more than enough to go around. In fact, I would argue too much. Critical ignoring and a growth mindset is about choosing what not to consume. Christopher Mims argues that 2026, the year where the biggest cognitive challenge isn't too little information, it's too much. Specifically, too much low value, low signal, high noise, attention chewing garbage. Mims's solution isn't deep analysis, it's critical ignoring. Because not every post, article, or argument deserves your prefrontal cortex. Doom scroller. Guilty. Growth mindset isn't just about learning more, it's about protecting the attention that learning requires. Holding space, as Brene Brown would say, holding space for yourself to think, consider, believe, repair. Attention is the gateway drug to growth. Where you put your attention is where you grow. There's a saying, where attention flows, your journey goes. Where are you putting your attention? And is it toward a growth mindset? Check out this crazy study on decision science, the Monet print study from Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert. This is one of my favorites. Students were asked to choose a photo print to keep. They went to a museum and they were asked to choose a photo print. Group A was given an irreversible choice. Whatever print you choose on this, so they spread out all these prints on a table and they said, go ahead and choose whichever print you want. But once it's chosen, it's yours. That was group A. Whatever you choose, that's yours. Group B was given a reversible choice. Choose your print, and if you want to change your mind, you can swap. Guess which group was happier with their choice? The irreversible group. Because when choices are final, the brain manufactures satisfaction. It commits, it metabolizes, it moves on. When choices are reversible, the brain keeps ruminating, keeps imagining better outcomes. It keeps second guessing and comparing. Reversible choices feel like freedom, but psychologically, they can feel like permanent dissatisfaction. In a loop, you get stuck. A growth mindset loves irreversible choices for a reason. They force the brain to iterate forward instead of rewind backward. My former manager gave me the best mantra to keep me focused forward. Don't focus so much on making the right choices. Focus on making your choices all right. Whatever choice you make, go forward. Sumali Wicca Mara Chichi, who's a data storyteller, said, "Get tired of choosing." She helps organizations turn data into clarity and action. And she wrote a piece about Barack Obama that I thought was fascinating. She said, "Here's how Barack Obama turned mental exhaustion into a masterclass in cognitive design." Here's the quote, and you probably have heard Barack Obama say this: "You see that I wear only gray or blue suits." It's the truth. If you look around, very few times did he wear anything but gray or blue suits, except for that one tan one. If you remember, that was a whole drama. He said, "I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or what I'm wearing because I have too many other decisions to make." Pare down your decisions. There's a reason why your brain feels like mashed potatoes by 3 p.m. Every small choice you make, what to wear, what to eat, which email to reply to, silently taxes your mental budget. Psychologists call it decision fatigue. That's a term popularized by social scientist Roy Baumeister in Willpower, Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength. The finding was startling in his research. Self-control and decision-making draw from the same limited pool of mental energy. The result? As your brain depletes, your judgment declines. You scroll longer, you snack more, you say yes to things that you absolutely should say no to. Layer on our modern world of notifications, noise, and 9 browser tabs, or 29 browser tabs. You've got cognitive overload, a traffic jam inside your prefrontal cortex. Obama understood this before neuroscience made it fashionable. Running a country that never sleeps, he learned that mental clarity isn't a gift, it's a design choice. So here are 5 guiding principles to make your decision-making optimal. Number 1, automate the mundane. Every unnecessary decision is a thief of strategic energy. Wearing the same suit. Steve Jobs wore the same turtlenecks. Even Albert Einstein allegedly had multiples of the same gray suit, quote, to avoid wasting brain power. Research backs this up. Your brain gets tired fast from making too many decisions. Save it for the big calls, not breakfast. So the thinking edge cue here is, if the decision repeats daily, it belongs in a system, not your brain. Number 2, prioritize by energy, not time. In the 80s and 90s, when I first started on the speaking circuit, teaching classes at universities, the concept that I can't tell you how many times I was asked to come in and teach a time management course. You don't see those anymore. It's about energy management. You don't have a time management problem. You have an energy allocation problem. Schedule your most important meetings early in the day when your cognitive freshness is at its peak. Or if you're a night owl, schedule your most important meetings later in the day. Identify your brain's prime time, that 2 to 3 hour window where you're most alert, and guard that time like the nuclear codes. Your calendar tells you when you're free, but your brain tells you when you're brilliant. Pay attention. Number 3, simplify your choice architecture. Decision science calls it the paradox of choice. The more options you have, the less satisfied you feel. The more choices you have, the more paralyzed you feel. Restaurants with a smaller menu tend to have better food. Thinking edge cue here is, a cluttered slide deck is a symptom of a cluttered mind. A cluttered desk reflects what's going on in your mind. Clear your desk clears your mind. Number 4, emotion proof your thinking. What? Emotion proof your thinking? When your mental energy dips, emotion takes the wheel. Insert the strategic pause, a deliberate stillness before answering, and watch the magic happen. I triple dog dare you to do this in your next meeting. Someone asks you a question, your emotions get triggered. Take a strategic pause, a gap between impulse and intention, and you will have a better outcome. In neuroscience terms, it's your prefrontal cortex hitting the brakes on the amygdala. Don't let it get hijacked. Don't react fast, react wise. It's cheaper in the long run. And then finally, number 5, build decision rituals. Rituals aren't rigidity, they're relief. Obama, back to his story that she wrote about, he started each day with a morning briefing, a workout, and a family breakfast. That predictability frees cognitive resources for uncertainty elsewhere. Like in the book Atomic Habits, James Clear explains, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Oh, snap. Rituals turn chaos into cadence. So the takeaway from all of this is you don't have to run a nation to feel like your brain is on fire, but you can lead your own life with presidential precision. Design your day. Simplify the inputs. Pick something, whether it's what you wear, what you eat, and create a ritual out of it to protect your focus, build cognitive guardrails, because the smartest leaders aren't making more decisions. They're making fewer, better ones. And when you optimize your mind's bandwidth, you stop reacting like a manager and you start deciding like a strategist. So here's the reflection question homework for you. I want you to tag me somewhere in socials and let me know what is one recurring decision you could automate tomorrow to buy back mental clarity. One recurring decision that you could automate to simplify your life. Growth mindset doesn't just make you nicer to be around, it makes you harder to kill. Longevity, remember, positive beliefs about aging add 7.5 years to your lifespan. That's incredible. Neuroplasticity will build up your cognitive reserve. A growth mindset predicts higher subjective well-being because it transforms problems into challenges and challenges into meaning. Growth is an antidepressant. Meaning is an anxiolytic, meaning it reduces your anxiety. And agency is youth serum. So try it and see what happens. One last tip for the road. This is a crazy one, and there's research that it absolutely works. I've tried it and it blew my mind. It's called distanced self-talk. When you're overwhelmed, switch from I to your name. Switch from I can't handle this to Susan is overwhelmed, but she's handled worse. Become a journalist in your own story. This reduces limbic overload and increases your executive functioning. That's not woo, that's science. Find a song that speaks to growth mindset for you. I've picked one myself. Stronger by Kelly Clarkson and Beautiful by Carole King. Here's the whole episode distilled. Fixed mindset worships identity. Growth mindset cultivates capacity. Go away from what do I have to prove and go toward what can I learn next. As Maya Angelou said, this is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. And if nobody's told you this in a while, you can become more than you currently are. Your book isn't over. This chapter isn't final. The next sentence is unwritten, and it's yours. I'm Dr. Susan. Be gentle, be curious, and be proud of being human. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern right here on Sandcastle Radio, America's hottest online variety and music station. This has been Human Being with Dr. Susan, and I'm wishing you a fantastic Saturday.